Nike just released a brand new commercial featuring Caitlin Clark and her new Kobe shoe that she released today. And I saw this commercial yesterday on social media. I thought it was so cool. There's a shot when she's in the locker room and she opens her eye and it like turns into what looks like a snake eye, but when you zoom in, it's actually the Kobe logo.
Nike just executed the most humiliating U-turn in modern sports history. For years, they poured millions into crowning their hand-picked queen, building an entire strategy around her as the future face of their brand. But then, one player shattered that entire plan, not with a marketing campaign, but with pure, undeniable force. The event that triggered this public surrender wasn't a boardroom decision, it was a website crash. A single shoe release for a player who didn't even have her own signature line exposed Nike's multi-year blunder and revealed the shocking truth. They bet on the wrong star, and now they're desperately trying to catch up to the Caitlin Clark phenomenon.
Nike finally delivers Caitlin Clark PE. Is this the first Caitlin Clark exclusive Nike commercial since she's entered the WNBA? I know she's made a cameo here, she's made a cameo there, she was featured as part of this rollout here, featured as part of this rollout there, but is this our first official Caitlin Clark solo commercial since she has joined the WNBA?
For years, Nike had a meticulous plan. Her name was Aja Wilson, and she was, by all accounts, the perfect candidate to be the face of their brand. She was the definition of a winner, a powerhouse on the court with a resume that marketing executives build entire campaigns around. Multiple MVP awards, a WNBA championship ring, Olympic gold medals. She had checked every box of greatness, and Nike invested in her accordingly. They poured immense resources into making her their chosen one, embarking on a painstaking 2-year journey to develop her very own signature shoe, the A1.
Caitlin Clark and Nike are officially dropping Caitlin Clark's Indiana Fever player-exclusive Kobe 5s in just a couple weeks. So this shoe was first seen being worn by Caitlin and was thought to be a colorway made just for her up until just a couple days ago, where Nike's official images of the shoes got leaked and the announcement was made saying that everyone will now have a chance to wear her shoe.
For an athlete, a signature shoe is the ultimate validation. It's a declaration from a brand that you are not just a player, but an icon. This wasn't just a sneaker, it was a coronation. Nike gave her the full princess treatment, allowing her to embed her family's history, quotes from her grandmother, and deeply personal symbols into its design. They weren't just building a product, they were building a narrative, crafting a legacy for the star they had handpicked to lead them into the future. They were certain they had their queen.
Well, I don't think I'd be in the wrong to say Caitlin Clark's Kobe is the sneaker of the week, and everyone's focus is mostly on this one. If you really wanted that shoe, I hope you put your footwork in, because there's supposedly only 13,000 pairs on Sneakers App tomorrow. Combine that with a really high resale value, I expect this shoe to be a relatively difficult comp. But my hope seriously is that with Caitlin Clark's sneaker coming out, that this sets a precedent and we might see other exclusive player edition Kobe's drop for the public.
But while this secret coronation was happening behind Nike's closed doors, a very different and far more complicated story was playing out in public. As Nike's designers meticulously crafted her legacy in footwear, Aja Wilson was making public comments that painted a picture of frustration and neglect. In a now infamous and widely discussed interview with Time magazine, she spoke of the stark differences in media attention within women's basketball. She questioned the massive hype surrounding players like Caitlin Clark, suggesting that the disparity in coverage wasn't just about talent, but was heavily influenced by race.
Look, these things is some fire. I'm telling you, where there's smoke, there is fire, and these things is hitting so hard. And who got a bot? Who a shoe plug? Because I need 2 pairs. I need one for the sneaker wall, and I need one for my feet, because these things is hitting right here, and no, I don't want to pay $600 on GOAT.
The shocking part of this narrative wasn't her opinion, it was the timing. For 2 full years, Wilson knew she had the ultimate prize from Nike in her back pocket, a multi-million-dollar signature shoe deal, the very thing she was suggesting others were getting unfairly. Yet, she allowed a narrative of being overlooked to build and fester, fueling a divisive public debate that often positioned Clark as an undeserving recipient of unearned privilege. It was a stunning layer of duplicity, to publicly lament a lack of recognition while privately holding the ultimate symbol of corporate endorsement.
I lost all respect for Aja Wilson. I don't want to hear her opinions. I don't care what she has to say from this point on. When you keep a Nike deal 2 years in secret while you're spewing all that crazy stuff about Caitlin Clark in the Time magazine. Read it. Read what she said in the Time magazine. Yet you had a Nike deal the whole entire time? Suspect.
The market, however, has no patience for complex narratives or hidden resentments. It responds to one thing: overwhelming demand, and when Nike finally released Caitlin Clark's Indiana Fever Kobe PE, the result was a digital tsunami. This shoe wasn't even her own signature model. It was essentially a custom colorway of a hand-me-down design from a past legend, yet the public's hunger for it was cataclysmic. An estimated 13,000 pairs were loaded onto Nike's website, and they vanished in under 2 minutes. The site itself, a sophisticated piece of e-commerce infrastructure for a global giant, didn't just slow down, it buckled under the sheer weight of the traffic, crashing as a desperate army of fans frantically tried to get a piece of the Clark phenomenon.
So it's finally here. Caitlin Clark sneakers from Nike is finally dropping. She was signed to them last year, and the sneakers is a year late in my opinion, but nonetheless I'm excited because these sneakers is finally coming out. But what does annoy me a little bit is that this is a collaboration with Kobe. Now, Kobe, respect to Kobe, the legend, rest in peace, great basketball player. But in my opinion, Caitlin Clark is a big enough star and she's creating her own legacy. So I feel like, at least for her first sneaker, it shouldn't be a collaboration with any other player, dead or alive, in my opinion. I feel like Caitlin should have, for her first shoe, had her own original design just for her, no collaboration.
The contrast with Wilson's own shoe release was brutal. Nike had promoted Wilson's 01 with a limited drop, a classic marketing tactic to create artificial scarcity and guarantee a sellout. But Clark didn't need any artificial help. Her demand was terrifyingly, organically real. On the resale market, the verdict was even more decisive. Clark's Kobe's were instantly listed for $350, $400, and even upwards of $600. The market doesn't care about feelings. It responds to pure, undeniable value, and its voice was screaming.
And all this was done while the shoes being developed, while the collections being done. To demonize Caitlin Clark and try to label her as a privileged white girl that's getting all the privileges, even though she earned everything she got. This ain't about color. This is about good and bad. And I honestly find this a little evil. I find this evil. This is beyond bad, because you had the ability to speak up and say, hey, everybody, relax. Don't get on Caitlin Clark. She got a shoe deal. That's cool. I got one too. Mine's taking a little bit, but it's going to come out. Just be patient. She could have came out and said that, but she didn't.
The shockwaves from the Caitlin Clark effect extended far beyond sneaker websites. This was never just about shoes. It was about a total economic earthquake that was reshaping the entire landscape of women's sports. The numbers were so staggering they bordered on unbelievable. Before she even played a single WNBA game, economists estimated that Caitlin Clark had generated an astonishing $82.5 million in economic impact for the state of Iowa alone. This wasn't a typo. One college athlete was running a solo stimulus package for an entire state. As she entered the pros, this Clarkflation became a league-wide phenomenon.
Nike did not fumble Caitlin Clark. It takes years and years of research and development and building and designing and trialing and erroring to build a custom shoe line. Caitlin Clark has played in only Kobe 5s and Kobe 6s almost exclusively for like the last 3 or 4 years. If they are building a shoe for Caitlin Clark, that Caitlin Clark is going to wear, that she's going to sell, that she's going to give away to her teammates, to her fans, to whomever, it has to be as good as, if not better, than the Kobe 5 or 6. And there's new Kobe variants out, and she doesn't wear them. She signed a $28 million 10-year contract with Nike. Year 2. We're in year 2 of that. The shoes are coming. They have to design them. It takes several years for this to happen. We're not just doing a colorway like Paige Beckers did.
WNBA teams that had struggled for years to fill seats were suddenly seeing their arenas sell out, with ticket prices skyrocketing the moment the Indiana Fever were scheduled to visit. Television ratings didn't just rise, they shattered all previous records by margins that seemed impossible just a year prior. Clark wasn't just a basketball player anymore, she was a traveling cultural event, an economic engine that was lifting the entire league on her shoulders. She was single-handedly creating wealth and attention on a scale the sport had never seen, and Nike, the brand that was supposed to be the smartest in the room, seemed to be the last to get the memo.
Your stock price since 2021, it is down nearly 60%. Your executives and the people who are making these decisions, their stock options are worthless. Meanwhile, you have the single biggest needle mover in all of American sports since Michael Jordan, and you have somehow convinced yourself that you need to slow play this. Let me show you Google Trends search traffic for 4 female basketball players. There is one who only rivals Caitlin Clark, and that is Angel Reese, and you do not have her. She is over at Reebok. I am so confused as to how you would be so invested in the WNBA for several years, and you have been doing great work to try to elevate and uplift that league and many of the athletes there. But this seems like you have convinced yourself that this needs to be an either-or conversation. And we never have an either-or conversation in the men's sports. You have like 10 signature athletes. Half of them don't deserve a signature shoe.
It's one thing for fans and critics on social media to point out a company's mistake. It's another thing entirely when the call of betrayal is coming from inside the house. The situation became so undeniable, so glaringly obvious, that a former Nike basketball marketing director named Jordan Rogers went public with a stunning and unprecedented rebuke of his old company. He didn't mince words. He openly stated that Nike had completely and utterly fumbled the Caitlin Clark opportunity, confirming that the brand's leadership was asleep at the wheel, while the biggest cultural movement in modern sports was unfolding right under their noses.
But I just felt like across the board, this commercial was a 10 for 10. And a lot of people have been getting on Nike because they don't feel like they have been promoting Caitlin as much as they should. But I will say we have to give credit where credit is due. I feel like in the past month or so, they had been tweeting about Caitlin more. And then obviously with this shoe release, they made this super sick commercial to promote it. And of course, just today, Caitlin Clark's new Kobe PE shoe sold out in less than a minute. And I saw so many tweets about this, so many people who were so sad that they missed out on this shoe. I saw that there was this one Dick's store and people were lined up around the corner, like camping out trying to get the shoe.
This wasn't just speculation anymore. It was a high-level insider exposing a catastrophic miscalculation at the highest levels of the company. And this corporate blunder had real-world consequences that could be tracked on Wall Street. While Nike was busy trying to push a narrative the public clearly wasn't buying, its stock price was plummeting, eventually hitting a 5-year low. The market wasn't just voting with its wallet on shoes. Institutional investors were punishing the company for its baffling failure to recognize and capitalize on a once-in-a-generation superstar. The scoreboard on the stock exchange was telling a brutal story of strategic failure.
I find it's very deplorable to me. I find it's very deplorable that you allow Caitlin Clark to get crapped on that whole entire time and even speak up. And on top of that, Nike's a bunch of a-holes too, because they didn't speak up and defend Caitlin Clark or speak up and say, hey, we got Aja's shoe coming. We got Aja's shoe coming. Just gotta be patient. Caitlin Clark's gonna get hers too. I don't understand the tactics here. All you're causing controversy that didn't have to be there. You're calling division where it didn't have to be there. You're calling racial, issues where it didn't have to be there.
This brings us back to that shoe and the slick new commercial Nike released to promote it. It's a well-made ad, showing Clark shrugging off her critics with a confident, almost villainous smirk as she opens her eye to reveal a snake-like iris that morphs into the Kobe logo. But viewed through the lens of this entire corporate saga, the commercial isn't a celebration. It's a desperate pivot. It's a frantic course correction. For the first time, Nike was acknowledging the controversy and the noise, leaning into the very villain persona that a frustrated few had tried to pin on Clark.
You finally put her in a Super Bowl campaign with 9 other women, and all respect to them, but none of them are moving the needle quite like she is. Your tagline in that was "You can't win, so win." One of the best explanations I can come up with is that you are wringing your hands and afraid to enter into this politically divisive conversation that has been co-opted by the media and pundits who are race baiting and doing all kinds of ridiculous things around women's basketball. You can't win, so win. You have the unicorn, the chosen one, the one who everyone wants to hear from, and you are just sitting around. Gatorade, State Farm, Gainbridge, Wilson Basketball have all figured out how to have a point of view with Caitlin Clark. Please, for the love of God, figure something out.
It was a clear sign that they were finally listening, not to their own meticulously crafted marketing plans from 2 years ago, but to the deafening roar of the public discourse. This wasn't the triumphant launch of a new era they had planned with A'ja Wilson. This was a tactical retreat, a public surrender to the undeniable force of the market. They weren't leading the charge anymore. They were just trying to catch up to an army that had already been marching for years.
Also heard that Nike stocked about 14,000 of these, and that is an unconfirmed report, but they sold out in less than a minute. If that's any indication of what a Caitlin Clark signature shoe will do, I think Nike better continue to get on it and get ready to launch this brand for
So why was Nike so catastrophically late? What explains this corporate blindness? The answer is as simple as it is damning. They were paralyzed by fear. In recent years, the discourse around women's basketball had been deliberately turned into a political minefield by media pundits and online agitators. Narratives of race and privilege were being weaponized, creating a toxic environment where every move was scrutinized through a political lens. And Nike, a global corporation terrified of alienating any demographic, found itself trapped. Backing Caitlin Clark with the full force of their marketing machine risked being framed as them ignoring other deserving players of color.
Right? Nike released the shoe this morning for $190. That was the going rate for the signature sneaker. Now, I'm here to tell you, as you guys can see right here on Google, just type in Caitlin Clark Kobe 5. StockX, currently right now, they're going for $345. On GOAT, they're going for $386. And Flight Club, you're looking at $375. Must mind you, these sneakers was just released a few hours ago. These sneakers were retail for $190. This is the Caitlin Clark defect.
In their effort to appear sensitive and navigate the complex social justice landscape, they chose to slow play the single biggest needle mover in American sports. While other brands like Gatorade and State Farm fearlessly jumped in and built campaigns around Clark, Nike was wringing its hands, afraid to enter the conversation. Their attempt to play it safe was the riskiest move of all, and it cost them dearly. But here is the official excuse you will hear from Nike's defenders: the convenient alibi for their failure. A signature shoe takes years of research, design, and development. And while that is true, it is not the whole truth. It's an excuse, not a reason. The clock on Caitlin Clark's development didn't start the day she was drafted into the WNBA. Any competent executive at Nike saw this supernova rising years ago. They had years of free data watching her on the court. They knew she played almost exclusively in Kobe 5s and 6s. The research on what kind of shoe she needed to perform at her best was already done for them, broadcast on national television every week. They had a direct blueprint for what her future shoe should feel and perform like. The argument that it takes time completely ignores the fact that they could have and should have started that process years ago. The fact that they were able to quickly produce this Kobe PE collaboration proves they had the ability to act much faster. The delay wasn't about logistics. It was a deliberate strategic choice they are now desperately trying to undo. In the end, this story was never just about a sneaker rivalry, a marketing fumble, or a clash of personalities. It's about a fundamental and irreversible power shift in the world of sports and marketing. We witnessed the slow, painful death of the manufactured narrative. Nike, the undisputed master of creating legends and selling dreams, spent years and millions trying to build a queen from a blueprint, only to be completely and totally overthrown by a phenomenon that was born organically in the heartland of America. A'ja Wilson is an incredible championship-winning player whose greatness is unquestioned, but Caitlin Clark is a cultural icon. The difference is that one was being built in a boardroom, while the other was being built in sold-out arenas, in record-breaking television broadcasts, and in the hearts of millions of fans who saw something authentic. The market has a new law of attraction, and it's one that values raw, undeniable connection over any carefully crafted story. And it leaves us all with one lingering, thought-provoking question. In this new era, Can a brand ever truly create a star again, or can they only pray to be chosen by one?